Hello YouTube, this is StephenWorldwide with a video blog today. I'll be talking about my experience working at an after-school English company. In my opinion, after-school English is the best English teaching job you can get besides university teaching. And I'll explain why on this walk to work. Still can't come up with a good name for these videos. These commute. I walk to work every day and I make these videos. I'm trying to think of a creative name for that. Nothing comes to mind. Let's see if I can do it today without getting hit by a car like I did yesterday. Maybe I'll keep my elbow in. Okay. So why is after-school teaching the best job? Basically, the hours are the shortest, in a nutshell. So I worked an after-school English job for 3 years, and that was from 2013 to 2016. Everybody stares at me on my way to work. They're used to me now. I'm the crazy foreigner guy with the phone, talking to the phone. Yeah, so a lot of people don't know about after-school English teaching because you have two main jobs. When you're a new teacher and you go to Korea, you have two types of jobs. You have the public school teaching job, which is a regular, like 9 to 4 are your hours usually, and you're teaching in a public school, and you prepare lesson plans for classes of 15, 20, 25 students. It's a well-structured job, and I actually recommend that job to new teachers starting out because it's organized, there's orientation, and they train you, and you get paid on time, and it's pretty stable, supported by the government. And now it's gotten pretty competitive, so now they're looking for English majors and education majors out of college. You can't just have, you could apply, but I don't think you can have just any major. If you're like a math major, you'll get waitlisted perhaps. The other job are the hagwon or private school jobs, and those are 70% of the English teaching jobs in Korea, I would guess, for new people. There's no shortage of hagwon jobs in Korea. And there are hagwons that call recruiters looking for new teachers all the time. The public school jobs hire twice a year. So you might wait a year to get hired by them. The hagwon jobs, that's the easiest way to get into Korea because those jobs happen whenever a teacher quits or when their contract is done, all times during the year. Could be any time, any month. But those jobs are risky. Go all the way back 6 years ago to my the dangers of teaching in English if you want to learn more specifically about what's dangerous about working at those schools. All right, so then after school English, what is it? Most people don't know about after school English until they already get into Korea. And that is when a public school hires a company to come in and teach English. Here's another red truck. Am I going to get hit by a car? I made it unscathed. All right, so a school does not have an in-house English teacher, and they have a company that they're contracted with a company. The company places a teacher in their school. The school gives 1 or 2 classrooms for an English program, and when the kids are done, usually they have lunch and they're done. The first graders, the youngest ones, are done around 12:30. They come into your English class and have an English lesson. And then the older students that are like 11 or 12 years old and they're in 4th or 5th grade, they're done around 3 or 4. And those jobs are usually not advertised by recruiters. usually the companies that run these after-school programs, they go right on ESL Cafe or other websites and advertise. So when I was in Seoul and I was looking for a job, I tried applying to universities. I had just gotten my CELTA, which is a certificate for teaching English to adults. And I applied to universities and found out, after spending all that money and time getting my CELTA, which I don't regret at all. I could talk about CELTA in another video. Actually, that's a good topic to talk about. I couldn't get a job at university. They want a master's degree. They don't care if you have that CELTA certificate. So they were hiring people with master's degrees in economics or art and had less experience. They would hire them over me. So I had to get my master's degree, and that's another topic. So there's a lot of stuff I can talk about. There's a lot of videos I can make that are helpful for teachers. This is one of them, the after-school English deal. All right, so I was looking for a job. I couldn't get into university back in 2013. So I looked online and saw a after-school teaching job that paid very well. But it was located outside of Seoul in a smaller city called Gwangju. There's two Gwangjus in Korea. There's the awesome Gwangju, and then there's the other Gwangju. And I lived in both of them by coincidence. It's very rare to find anybody that lived in both of them, especially a foreigner. So the other Gwangju, the smaller Gwangju located outside of Seoul, I headed over there for this after-school teaching job. And the first year I was there, I was kind of bummed out that I had been living near Hongdae or near Sinchon, Seoul, which is a real young area. There's 3 universities all in one area, and it's just hundreds of thousands of university students everywhere. And then I went to living in this small city in the countryside, what you would call a suburb in the States, I guess. And my hours were great. I would go in at 12, class started at 1, and I was done around 5:30. And I talked to other teachers in the company. Some of the schools that were located in Seoul were open until, they were done after 6:30. So they were a little bit jealous that I had hours. I was done an hour earlier. But the pay was the same as all these other English teaching jobs I mentioned. So they were paying me about 2.7 million won a month, which sounds high, but they did not pay for my apartment. They allowed me to rent my own apartment, and they provided the key money, the deposit, which is 5 million won. They put down 5 million won, the company, and I just come up with the monthlies myself. This is the deadly corner. This is the corner that people race around. You see that guy that just blew right by me on the bike? You would think he would cut the corner wide so he can see what's going on, but he just blew right by against the wall. It's crazy. Okay. Just gotta watch myself. All right, so 2.7 million won. You rent your own apartment. Now, I don't know if this is all after-school teaching jobs, but this was the one that I was doing. The reason they're paying me a little bit more, I think they paid me 100 or a couple hundred extra a month, was just to get me out of Seoul and so I can live in the small town. And I had no problem with that. After living a year in Seoul, it's a lot of fun, no doubt, but I was just blowing through money, and I didn't have a full-time job in Seoul. I did CELTA, and then I was doing some private teaching on the side. And I did not want to work at a hagwon because I had some bad experiences there. I did not want public school teaching job. I didn't want to get up at, in the morning and go to work like everybody else. But no, I like the afternoon and the evening hours. And when you work a job that you start teaching at 1 and you're done at 5 or 6, you could have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home and still put in a full job. It was like part-time hours, but with full-time pay. And my situation only got better as I stayed there. After the first year, I tried to get out. I looked at other jobs. A lot of jobs were just more hours and less pay. And what was the teaching like at the school? The classrooms weren't that modern. It looks like that program had been there for like 10 years. They had a big projector TV that had to, it took 4 minutes for it to warm up before you can use it. It was on its last legs. It broke. It eventually broke in the third year, a couple months before I was done there. So it lasted a pretty long time. The teaching was fine. We had textbooks. The company did a pretty decent job. We ordered textbooks. The great thing about it is we were on our own. It was me, and then they hired a Korean English teacher. So it was both of us together. And they kind of left it up to us to... Actually, that was a problem that the Korean teacher had, was she had to do a lot of the admin. She had to call the parents. We had to order books. So we were kind of on our own to do all that. The good news is we weren't being micromanaged by the company. And since we lived so far out of Seoul, we only saw a manager from our company like once a month. They would drop by. And when they came by eventually, it was kind of pointless. Like, they didn't need to be there. We just taught our English and just did our thing, and that was it. So the teaching was fine. The teaching was normal. It's something like teaching at a hagwon. It's like a hagwon, except there was never really any problems getting our money. We had major holidays off. We didn't have a lot of vacation. So we were lucky if we got a week off in the summer and a week off in the winter. We were guaranteed 5 days off during the year. Was it 5 days off in the summer and 5 days off in the winter? I think it was. And if we did not get those days, we can request to get paid for those days. But the school, during the holidays, just to be clear about this, when the school was on vacation, they would change the hours, and the kids would still come to the school when the school was closed. So it became a lot like a private school. That's why you don't get a lot of vacation. These companies want to make money, number one. So they lose money when they're closed for a month. Korea doesn't care about your vacations, obviously. So don't feel entitled. You should feel entitled to whatever the contract says. Let's see. Yeah, in the summertime, the kids come in at 9, and then they're done at 1. And in the wintertime, too, during vacation time. So you're lucky if they schedule between the semesters and you get 5 days to a week off. So it's just a job that you don't get a lot of vacation for. But everything else is good about the job. Why is it the best job? The school I worked at, I got very lucky. Let me cross the street here. This is how I got lucky. So the first year I tried to look for a different apartment. I wanted to live closer to Bundang. And Bundang is it's a pretty busy, smaller city just south of Seoul, right on the subway line. And you can get to Seoul in like 15 or 20 minutes. But Bundang itself has a lot of cool places to go and is a fun place to live. So I was thinking of going there and commuting to the school. It was a 45 commute each way. But when I was looking at apartments and the cost of apartments, it was crazy. I mean, it's not Seoul, but they were charging Seoul prices. You know what? I better just cross the street again. Too much craziness. It's a garbage truck. I looked at the apartment monthlies were like $650 to $750 a month for a small one-room studio apartment, and my stuff would not fit in there. The apartment that I found in Gwangju was the best one-room apartment that I could find because it was large in size and it had not a balcony, but a veranda. There was plenty of storage space for stuff. And you know how much it cost a month? Like $320 a month. So I couldn't find anything to beat that. And it was a 20-minute walk from the school, but I rode a motorcycle, so it was 5 minutes away by motorcycle. And then I realized after the first year that school, that situation was really a good job, and I kept it for another 2 years. I would usually never stay at the same place for 3 years, but I did here. Here's one of the reasons why. They changed the hours at my school. They didn't add, they took away some hours. So instead of working every day 1 to 5:30, starting in the second year, it was much less than that. Konnichiwa. My hours went to 1 p.m. and they finished at 4:30. And that was 3 days out of the week. So for example, on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday, I'd go in at 12:30 and teach from 1, and I'll be done at 4:30. And then 2 of the days, on a Thursday and a Friday, it would start at 2:20 and be done at 4:30. So one day was about 3 hours. 3 days out of the week was 3 hours. 2 days out of the week was 2 hours. And I was getting paid full-time money for working 3 hours and 2 hours a day at this fairly easy English teaching job. And I knew nobody else has anything like that. Or if they do, I don't know anybody that had such low hours for such good pay. I had a cheap apartment, so I was starting to do well financially with this job. It left me a lot of free time. I have another video planned where I'll talk about how much money I made that last couple years at that job. And it was a huge amount of money. It was double what most people are making teaching English in Korea. And I was going to explain how I did that as something to help teachers, give them ideas if they want to be able to make a lot of money too. So I did that until the end. In the end, every year the school has to decide what company they want to hire to be an after-school English company. And a lot of these schools, they interview other companies, and the companies have to make a bid. And usually the cheapest companies get hired. I mean, let's face it, schools prefer the cheap cost over quality. And they would figure that every company's the quality is the same. As long as they have a foreigner coming in and Korean teachers that teach English, that's fine. So every year it was like a mystery whether our school, whether I had that job or not. And the last year, the school decided not to rehire my company. This was in January 2017. They decided just to keep the Korean teacher that was there and hire her on a part-time basis direct at the school, and my company was out. My company asked me if I wanted to stay on. They were going to put me in another school in Bundang and move me. And I decided to I thought about leaving Korea and going to another country at that time. Kind of like what I'm doing now. I decided over a year ago I wanted to do this. So that job was done. But that is after-school teaching. Now here's the thing, I didn't say at the beginning, there's one problem with after-school teaching for new teachers. They changed the law, they changed the rules, and now it's not an E2 visa job anymore. Now they're primarily hiring only F visas, so that's bad news for about 90% of English teachers. I don't know if I'm accurate with these percentages, but a majority. F visas, I can't remember what they F2, F6, but an F visa is for somebody who is of Korean heritage that grew up in USA or grew up in Canada or just can speak fluent English that wants to teach. They'll have an F visa to come to Korea because their family is Korean. Or you can earn the F visa if you spend enough time in Korea and if you speak Korean well enough to get a score on a test. And you go through some cultural awareness classes that takes up a whole summer or a year if you take the classes part-time. You can earn the F visa, but the F visa is like a resident visa, and the E2 visa was for somebody like me that is not Korean and is you get that visa just for working an English teaching job at a particular school. And the politics of that the reason why that rule was changed is, I'll talk about that at another time. So unfortunately, E2 visas really can't get the after-school teaching job. So for F visas, I would recommend it. You're shit out of luck if you're hoping that you can get a after-school teaching job. So sorry to break the news, but the main point of this video was to talk about after-school teaching. And there is a group on Facebook called After-School Teaching Jobs in Korea. I think that's what it is. You can just do a search for it to find out if you want more information about it. But to me, it's the job. If you get a good company that's reliable, that will pay you on time, and you have a low number of hours working, usually between 1 and 6, that's ideal, because the hagwons are usually from 1 to 9. My first year I was teaching from 4 to 9:30. It was supposed to be 4 to 10:30, but they ended early. So you can't beat hours between 1 and 5 or 1 and 6. Especially, I had that job, I was at from 1 to 4:30, so that was amazing. That was my after-school teaching experience. Watching as the students flow into the university like cattle. I love my students and I love this teaching job. It's fantastic. Really happy to be here. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like my videos. And stick around, I have some more ideas. Send me your ideas if you want me to talk about anything in particular about teaching in Korea, teaching in Japan. I was in Korea for 8 years and I just got here to Japan a month ago. So everything is new to me here, but I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.